The
Hello
relentless,
everyone,
sterile hum of
and
the
welcome
hospital
to my
room was a
General
sound
Hospital
Olivia
official
Quartermain
channel.
had
I
come to
hope
know
everyone is
intimately,
having
a
a
white
wonderful
noise that
day.
underscored the
Before
deepest
we
fears and
begin,
most
please
fragile
hit the
hopes of her
subscribe
life.
button and give this video
It
a
was the
thumbs
sound
up.
that had accompanied the slow, agonizing vigil by her son Leo's bedside, and now, it was the backdrop to a new, equally terrifying watch. Her husband, Ned Quartermain, lay motionless in the bed, his face pale against the stark white pillows, a network of tubes and wires connecting him to the beeping, blinking monitors that stood as silent sentinels of his precarious condition. The car accident had been brutal, a violent, screeching end to a perfectly ordinary Tuesday. The doctors had used words like medically induced coma, swelling on the brain, and critical but stable, each term a fresh blow to Olivia's already battered heart. She sat in the unforgiving plastic chair, her hand wrapped around his, feeling the cool, limp weight of his fingers. She'd been talking to him for hours, her voice a low, steady murmur against the hum. She talked about Leo's latest drawing, a chaotic but vibrant depiction of their family that now hung on the wall. She talked about the latest drama at the Metro Court, a piece of gossip so trivial it felt like a relic from another lifetime. She talked about the weather, the price of coffee, anything to fill the silence, to will some sign of consciousness back into his still form. She told him she loved him over and over, a mantra against the terror. "You have to come back to me, Ned," she whispered, her thumb stroking the back of his hand. "Leo needs you. I need you. The house is too quiet without you arguing with Michael about ELQ mergers and acquisitions. Who's going to irritate Brooklyn into writing another hit song if you're not here?" A tear escaped, tracing a warm path down her cheek. She let it fall, too weary to brush it away. The door opened with a soft swish, and Monica Quartermain entered, her demeanor a blend of professional calm and familial concern. "Olivia, you've been here for 12 hours straight. Let me sit with him for a while. You need to eat, to rest." Olivia shook her head, not letting go of Ned's hand. "I can't, Monica. What if he wakes up? What if he's confused and I'm not here? The nurses are monitoring him constantly. Any change, and they'll call you immediately. You'll be no good to him if you make yourself sick," Monica reasoned, her voice gentle but firm. It was the voice of a woman who had spent a lifetime in these halls, who knew the unique toll a vigil could take. Reluctantly, Olivia nodded. Her body ached with a fatigue that went bone deep. "Just for a little while. I'll just go down to the cafeteria, get some coffee." "Take your time," Monica said, settling into the chair Olivia had vacated. She picked up Ned's other hand, her expression softening into one of pure, maternal love. "We'll be right here." Olivia forced a grateful smile and slipped out of the room. The hallway was a blur of shifting light and muffled activity. She felt unmoored, detached from the world continuing on outside these walls. The cafeteria coffee was as bitter and thin as she expected, but the warmth of the cup in her hands was a small, grounding comfort. She sat at a small table, staring at the steam rising from the dark liquid, her mind replaying the last conversation she and Ned had before he'd left the house that morning. It had been about something inconsequential, who was supposed to pick up dry cleaning. She would give anything to have that mundane moment back. She couldn't have been gone more than 20 minutes, but a restless energy propelled her back to the ICU. As she approached Ned's room, she saw Monica standing just outside, speaking in low, urgent tones with the neurologist, Dr. Collins. Olivia's heart seized. Had something happened? Had he taken a turn for the worse? She quickened her pace. "Monica? What is it? Is Ned okay?" Monica turned, and to Olivia's surprise, a tremulous smile touched her lips. "Olivia. It's good news. There's been a significant change in his neurological activity. Dr. Collins was just telling me that they're beginning the process of bringing him out of the coma. It could be hours, maybe a day, but his brain is responding. He's fighting his way back to us." The relief was so potent it felt like a physical force, weakening her knees. She reached out to steady herself against the wall. He's waking up?" "The process has started," Dr. Collins confirmed. "It's not instantaneous. We'll be reducing the sedatives gradually. He may be disoriented when he first regains consciousness. His memory might be fuzzy, his speech could be slurred. All of that is perfectly normal. The important thing is that his vitals are strong, and the swelling has decreased significantly. Tears of pure, unadulterated hope welled in Olivia's eyes. Can I be with him? Of course, Monica said, squeezing her arm. He'll need to hear your voice now more than ever. Olivia re-entered the room, her entire being focused on the man in the bed. He looked the same, yet everything felt different. The air was charged with anticipation. She resumed her post, taking his hand again, leaning close. Ned? Darling, can you hear me? She said, her voice thick with emotion. The doctors say you're doing so well. You're so strong. Just keep fighting. We're all here, waiting for you. Leo made you a new picture. It's of you and him flying a kite. It's the most beautiful thing I've ever seen. She talked and talked, her words a lifeline cast into the depths of his unconsciousness. Hours bled together. The light outside the window faded from afternoon gold to evening purple, and finally to the inky black of night. The shift change happened, new nurses coming in with quiet efficiency. Olivia refused to leave. Monica brought her a sandwich she couldn't eat and a blanket she didn't feel she needed, the adrenaline of hope keeping her warm and alert. It was in the deep, quiet hour of the night, when the hospital's hum seemed to be the only sound left in the world, that she felt it. A faint, almost imperceptible twitch of his fingers against her palm. Her breath caught in her throat. She leaned forward, her face inches from his. Ned? Edward Quartermain, if you can hear me, squeeze my hand. A moment passed, suspended in time. Then, with a weak, trembling pressure, his fingers contracted around hers. A sob escaped her. Oh, thank God. Ned. You're here. You're back. I'm here, my love. I'm right here. His eyelids fluttered, a painful, slow motion. They opened a slit, then closed again, as if the dim light of the room was too much to bear. He made a low, guttural sound in his throat. It's okay, don't try to talk, she soothed, her free hand moving to gently stroke his forehead. Just rest. You're safe. You're in the hospital. You were in an accident, but you're going to be okay. His eyes opened again, this time staying open. They were clouded with confusion, bleary and unfocused. They roamed the ceiling, the four-pole, the heart monitor, before finally, slowly, landing on her face. Olivia held her breath, offering him a watery, joyous smile. This was the moment. The moment he would see her, and know he was loved, and know he was home. But the look in his eyes didn't clear. The confusion didn't melt into recognition or relief. It deepened. It hardened into something else, something that made Olivia's blood run cold. It was a look of pure, unadulterated, nothing. A blank slate. There was no love there, no familiarity, not even the annoyance they sometimes sparred with. There was a vacant, searching quality that was more terrifying than his stillness had been. He tried to speak, but his voice was a dry, cracked whisper, ravaged by disuse and the tube that had so recently been removed. His lips moved, forming silent words. He swallowed with visible difficulty, and tried again. Olivia leaned closer, her ear almost to his lips, her heart hammering against her ribs like a trapped bird. What is it, darling? I'm here. Take your time. He took a shuddering breath, gathering the minuscule strength he had. The 6 words he finally rasped out were quiet, barely audible, but they struck Olivia with the force of a physical blow, shattering her world into a million unrecognizable pieces. Who are you? Where is Lois? The air left Olivia's lungs in a whoosh. For a moment, the room tilted on its axis, the beeping of the monitors fading into a distant, roaring silence. She pulled back, her eyes wide with disbelief, searching his face for any sign that this was a joke, a side effect, a cruel trick of a traumatized brain. But his gaze was unwavering. It was clear and lucid in its confusion. He was looking at her as he would look at a stranger, a nurse, or an orderly who had overstayed their welcome. And he was asking for Lois. Lois Cerullo, his ex-wife. The woman he hadn't been married to in decades. The woman who lived on the other side of the country. Ned, she whispered, her voice trembling violently. It's me. It's Olivia. Your wife. He stared at her, his brow furrowing in a faint, frustrated line. He shook his head, a tiny, weak movement. No, he breathed out, the single word laced with a bewildered certainty that was utterly devastating. I don't know you. I want Lois. The carefully constructed dam of hope and composure that Olivia had maintained for days shattered completely. A raw, wounded sound escaped her, part gasp, part sob. She stumbled back from the bed, her hand flying to her mouth as if to physically contain the agony that was tearing through her. He didn't know her. The man she had built a life with, the man she had loved, fought with, and cherished, had looked right through her. In his mind, she was a stranger. And his heart, or whatever part of his memory was currently accessible, was calling out for a ghost from his past. I'll get the doctor, she stammered, her voice alien to her own ears. She fled the room, her legs feeling like rubber, the 6 shocking words echoing in her mind on a torturous, endless loop. Who are you? Where is Lois? In the hallway, she nearly collided with Monica, who was returning with 2 fresh cups of coffee. Olivia? What's wrong? You're white as a sheet. Has he taken a turn? He's awake, Olivia choked out, tears now streaming freely down her face. But, he doesn't know me, Monica. He looked right at me and asked me who I was. He asked for Lois. Monica's face, which had been bright with anticipation, fell. The professional in her immediately took over, but the grandmother, the mother-in-law, couldn't hide her own shock and pity. Amnesia is a common temporary side effect of a traumatic brain injury, Olivia. The brain protects itself. It doesn't mean it's permanent. He was so sure, Olivia wept, leaning against the wall for support. He looked at me like I was nobody. Just then, Dr. Collins emerged from a nearby room and Monica swiftly flagged him down. Doctor, he's awake. But he's experiencing significant disorientation and apparent memory loss. Dr. Collins nodded grimly and hurried into Ned's room, Monica on his heels. Olivia couldn't bring herself to go back in. She stood frozen in the hallway, listening to the muffled sounds of the examination. Edward? I'm Dr. Collins. Can you tell me your full name? There was a long pause, then Ned's voice, still weak, but clearer now. Edward. Quartermain. Good. That's good. Do you know where you are? Another pause. Hospital. Do you know what year it is? Silence. Then, a frustrated, no. Do you know who the president is? Reagan? Ned's voice was tentative, questioning. Dr. Collins and Monica exchanged a look. Olivia, listening from the hall, felt a fresh wave of nausea. Ronald Reagan? He was decades out of date. Mr. Quartermain, do you know who that woman is? Dr. Collins asked, presumably gesturing towards Monica. My mother, Ned said, and a small flicker of relief passed through Olivia. At least he knew Monica. But that relief was short-lived. And the woman who was just in here with you? Do you know who she is? Ned's answer was immediate and firm. No. I told her. I don't know her. She said she was my wife. He said the word as if it were absurd, inconceivable. That's not right. My wife is Lois. Where is Lois? Has anyone called her? Olivia squeezed her eyes shut, the pain so acute it was a physical ache in her chest. She heard Dr. Collins speaking in calm, reassuring tones, explaining that he had an injury, that his memory might be fragmented, that this was a normal part of the healing process. The words were meant to comfort, but they bounced off the fortress of her despair. Monica stepped out of the room, her expression pained. Olivia. He thinks it's the 1980s, Olivia whispered. He thinks he's still married to Lois. He has no idea who I am. No idea about Leo, about Brooklyn, about our entire life together. The magnitude of the loss was incomprehensible. It wasn't just that he was injured, it was that the shared history that formed the foundation of their marriage had been wiped clean, from his side at least. The brain is a mysterious thing, Monica said, putting a comforting arm around her. It's likely a condition known as retrograde amnesia. He may have lost decades. But memories can return. They often do. We have to be patient. Patient? Olivia echoed, the word tasting like ash. How did one be patient when their husband's soul seemed to have been replaced by a younger, stranger version? The man in that bed was Ned Quartermain, but he wasn't her Ned. Her Ned knew her favorite wine, knew how she took her coffee, knew the story of how they fell in love, with all its messy, complicated glory. This man looked at her and saw a blank space. The following days were a special kind of hell. Ned's physical strength began a slow, steady return, but his memory remained locked in a time capsule. The doctors confirmed he was experiencing a profound and specific retrograde amnesia. His memory seemed to cut off sometime in the late 1980s. He knew his parents, Tracy, and even a young Alan. He asked after his daughter, Brooklyn, but was confused when told she was a grown woman, a successful music executive. In his mind, she was still a little girl. And he was adamant about Lois. It was the one subject that seemed to cause him the most agitation. The nurses had to repeatedly explain that Lois Chirulo was no longer his wife, that she lived in Bensonhurst, and that they had been divorced for a very long time. He would become frustrated, sometimes angry, insisting they were wrong. Olivia tried. God, how she tried! She stayed by his bedside, bringing photos of their wedding, of Leo, of family vacations. She played his favorite music, read to him from books they both loved. She talked about the first time they met, their first date, the moment he proposed. He would listen politely, a distant, puzzled look in his eyes. It was the look one might give a particularly insistent and delusional stranger. There was no spark of recognition, no flicker of connection. You see, she said one afternoon, holding up a photo of the two of them laughing, their arms wrapped around each other at the Metro Court pool. That's us. Last summer. We were so happy. Ned took the photo, studied it for a long moment, and handed it back. I'm sorry, he said, and he genuinely sounded it. You seem very nice. But I don't remember any of that. That man, he looks like me, but he's not me. My life is with Lois. We have a baby. Brooklyn. His voice broke on his daughter's name. I need to see my daughter. It was the "you seem very nice" that finally broke her. The polite, impersonal dismissal was 1,000 times worse than anger. She left the room, walked to the hospital chapel, and wept until she had no tears left. The family was rallied. Tracy Quartermain arrived, a whirlwind of designer perfume and sharp intelligence. She was able to connect with him, to a point. He recognized her as his formidable older sister, though the dynamic was off, frozen in time. You have to snap out of this, Edward, Tracy said, her voice uncharacteristically gentle. You have a son. A wonderful little boy named Leo. And Olivia is his mother. She's your wife. Ned just shook his head, a stubborn set to his jaw that was so familiar it made Olivia's heart ache. I don't have a son named Leo. And my wife is Lois. Why is everyone lying to me? The most heartbreaking moment came when Brooklyn arrived. She burst into the room, her face a mask of fear and hope. Daddy! Ned's eyes lit up for the first time since he'd woken. Brookie, he said, using a childhood nickname Olivia had never even heard. He held out his arms, and Brooklyn rushed into them, sobbing with relief. But the moment was bittersweet. He held her, stroking her hair, murmuring, "It's okay, baby girl. Daddy's here. Don't cry." He pulled back, cupping her face. Look at you. You're so big. You're what, 7 now? Brooklyn's sobs hitched. She looked into his eyes and saw the same vacant confusion that Olivia had been facing. Daddy. I'm 32. The light in his eyes dimmed. The confusion returned, deeper and more profound. No, that's not possible. He looked at her, truly looked at her, this beautiful, grown woman, and he saw a stranger wearing his little girl's smile. The connection was there, but it was frayed, tethered to a past that no longer existed. The visit ended with Brooklyn leaving the room in tears, as devastated as Olivia. The doctors continued to counsel patients. They explained that forcing memories could be counterproductive. The brain needed to heal at its own pace. Sometimes, a familiar scent, a familiar sound, could trigger a cascade of returning memories. Other times, the memories returned in fragments. And in some rare, tragic cases, they never returned at all. Olivia felt like she was living in one of those tragedies. She was a ghost in her own life, haunting the periphery of a man who no longer had a place for her. The shocking words he had spoken upon waking had become the defining truth of her existence. Who are you? Where is Lois? The situation reached a crisis point a week after he woke up. Ned's physical therapy was progressing well, and he was due to be moved out of the ICU and into a step-down unit. Olivia was in his room, helping to pack his few personal items into a bag, the get-well cards he couldn't remember receiving, the photo of Leo he refused to acknowledge. He was sitting in a chair by the window, watching her. The silence between them was heavy, oppressive. The doctors say you might be able to come home in another week or so, Olivia said, trying to sound cheerful, trying to project a normalcy that was miles away. Ned was quiet for a long moment. Then he said, Olivia. He used her name now, but it was without warmth, a label for a person he was being forced to accept. Yes, Ned. He turned to look at her, his expression resolute. I've been thinking. When I'm discharged, I'm not going to our house. I can't. The blood drained from Olivia's face. What? Where would you go? I've asked my mother if I can stay at the Quartermain main house. With her and Tracy. He spoke calmly, logically, as if discussing a business proposition. It doesn't make sense for me to go to a home I don't remember, with a woman I don't know. It would be confusing for me, and unfair to you. I need to be somewhere familiar. The main house. I remember that. Each word was a nail in the coffin of their life together. He wasn't just rejecting her, he was rejecting the home they had built, the sanctuary they had created together. But I'm your wife, she said, her voice a broken whisper. On paper, perhaps, he said, not unkindly, but with a finality that was chilling. But not in my mind. Not in my heart. My heart remembers Lois. It remembers my daughter as a child. Until my mind catches up, if it ever does, I have to go with what I know to be true. And the truth I know is that I don't belong with you. Olivia could only stare, utterly defeated. He had built a wall around the man he used to be, and she was on the outside, with no way to scale it. The love of her life was gone, and in his place was a polite, determined stranger who was systematically dismantling the life they had shared. The fight seemed to have gone out of her. She simply nodded, unable to speak. She finished packing the bag in silence and left the room, leaving him to his memories of a life that had moved on without him. She walked through the hospital corridors, a shell of herself. The 6 shocking words had not just been a moment of confusion, they had been a prophecy. They had defined the new, heartbreaking reality of her existence. He didn't know who she was. And he was still looking for a woman who had left his life long ago. The future they had planned was a blank space to him, and Olivia was left alone, haunting the empty rooms of their past, waiting for a miracle that might never come. The man she loved was awake, but in every way that truly mattered, he was still lost to her. The late afternoon sunlight filtered weakly through the blinds of Ned Quartermain's hospital room as Olivia sat beside his bed, her fingers laced tightly around his unmoving hand, her heart aching from the uncertainty that had shadowed the last few days. She kept whispering little prayers, barely audible, as she studied his face, familiar, stubborn, beloved. Come back to me, honey. Please, she murmured, brushing her thumb over his knuckles. The monitor beeped steadily, a sound both reassuring and maddening, reminding her he was here but unreachable. Every time a nurse pushed open the door, Olivia looked up with hope flickering like a fragile flame, but they always offered the same sympathetic expression. No changes yet. Olivia swallowed her frustration, standing abruptly just a pace, because sitting still made her feel like she was losing him by the minute. Brooke Lynn came in quietly, her eyes rimmed with exhaustion. Any update? She asked, already knowing the answer. Olivia shook her head. I've tried everything, talking, music, yelling. Brooke Lynn gave a sad half-smile. He's too stubborn to sleep through all that yelling. Olivia exhaled shakily and walked back to Ned's side. Nedward Lewis Quartermain, she said, leaning closer, if you don't wake up soon, I swear I'm gonna drag you back myself. For a moment, she thought she saw his eyelids twitch, but she blinked and it was gone. Chase entered next, his usual steady demeanor replaced with quiet worry. Dr. Randolph said signs of responsiveness can come slowly. Olivia nodded, though the reassurance barely touched her. She wanted him awake now, whole, talking, calling her Liv like he used to. She rested her forehead against his hand, whispering, just open your eyes and tell me you're still in there. Hours passed before something shifted, something subtle, a change in the room's energy, or maybe just the sound of a breath caught differently. Olivia had dozed off in the chair when she felt fingers move against her palm. Her head snapped up. Ned, she breathed. This time she didn't imagine it. His fingers curled weakly around hers. Ned, honey, can you hear me? His eyelids fluttered once, twice, then slowly lifted, revealing clouded but conscious eyes. Oh my God, Olivia gasped, half laughing, half crying. You're awake! Brooke Lynn rushed forward, grabbing Ned's other hand. Dad? Dad, say something. Ned stared at both of them, disoriented at first, blinking as though the room was unfamiliar. Where? He tried, his voice dry. Olivia quickly reached for the water cup, holding the straw to his lips. You're in the hospital, sweetheart. You've been out for days. He took a small sip, then let his head sink back into the pillow as he tried to gather his thoughts. Liv, she nodded, brushing hair back from his forehead. I'm right here, honey. You scared me half to death. Ned looked at her more intently now, as if searching her face for something specific. Olivia felt a sudden jolt of fear. What is it? Do you remember what happened? He swallowed hard, his expression tightening. Olivia, he whispered again, and she leaned closer, squeezing his hand. I'm listening, baby. Tell me. His eyes shifted with a seriousness that sent chills down her spine. His voice came out hoarse but measured as he forced the words past his dry throat, 6 words that seemed to shatter the air around them. I remember everything. And it's bad. Olivia froze, her breath catching. Brooke Lynn's eyes widened. What do you mean everything? Ned struggled but pushed himself slightly higher against the pillows as determination took hold. Something happened before the fall. Something I didn't tell anyone. Olivia exchanged a nervous look with Brooke Lynn before turning back to him. Okay, just tell us, Ned. Whatever it is, we'll deal with it together. Ned shook his head, jaw tightening. This isn't something you can just deal with. Olivia's stomach twisted. You're scaring me. Ned closed his eyes for a moment as though steadying himself, then said slowly, I remembered, someone confronting me. Someone who wanted me quiet. Olivia blinked. Quiet about what? Ned's hand trembled slightly in hers. About ELQ. About the Metro Court. About something bigger than we knew. Brooke Lynn leaned closer, voice trembling. Dad, are you saying someone pushed you? Ned hesitated, then nodded. Yes. Someone pushed me. Someone we trusted. Olivia felt the blood drain from her face. Who? Ned struggled to speak, each word sounding like gravel. I didn't see clearly. But I heard a voice before I fell. A voice threatening me. Olivia felt her heart thundering. What voice, Ned? He looked up at her with pained clarity. It was a woman's voice. And she said, "You're not ruining everything for me." Brooklyn stiffened. A woman? Dad, are you sure? He nodded. Absolutely sure. Olivia's pulse raced as her mind flipped through possibilities. Nina? Tracy? Lois? Who? Ned shook his head. Not them. Someone else. Olivia leaned forward, almost whispering, Then who, Ned? He swallowed. It sounded like Carly. The room fell dead silent, as though every sound had been yanked away. Olivia blinked, stunned, the air suddenly thick with disbelief. Carly, she repeated, almost unable to form the word. Brooklyn shook her head rapidly. Dad, no, Carly? No way. She wouldn't, Ned cut her off, struggling to sit forward. I'm not saying she pushed me. I'm saying, that's the voice I heard right before everything went black. Olivia's mind raced, trying to reconcile the accusation with everything she knew. Are you sure, Ned? You were confused, you were in danger, maybe your mind filled in something that wasn't there. Ned's voice was steady but strained. Liv, I know Carly's voice. She was emotional, angry about something involving the hotel, something I apparently knew that she didn't want getting out. Olivia exhaled shakily, rubbing his arm. Honey, Carly's been dealing with so much. She might have argued with you, but hurting you? This doesn't add up. Brooklyn shook her head, overwhelmed. We need to call someone. Michael. Drew. Somebody. Ned reached for her wrist weakly. No. Listen to me. We can't go to anyone until I know for certain. I don't want accusations flying until I remember more. But those 6 words, I remember everything. And it's bad, that's not something I said lightly. Olivia swallowed hard and sat on the edge of the bed. Okay. Then we do this carefully. You rest. You try to remember with clarity, not fear. Ned nodded, exhausted. Olivia brushed her thumb over his cheek. We'll figure this out. Together. As Ned drifted into a light sleep, Olivia stepped into the hallway, pressing a hand to her chest as though trying to hold her heart in place. Everything felt upside down. Carly being involved, if even remotely, was a disaster waiting to explode. Brooklyn followed her, voice low. Do you believe him? Olivia sighed. I believe he thinks he heard Carly. Whether that's the truth or a scrambled memory, we don't know yet. Brooklyn rubbed her forehead. And if it is true? Olivia answered quietly, then Port Charles is about to implode. She pushed open the door again, peeking inside to see Ned sleeping fitfully. Whatever happens next, Olivia whispered, it starts with those 6 words.